Hello everyone, this is my presentation on Ethics of Ambiguity, Chapter 3, Sections 1 through 2, pages 79 through 86, and we'll just go ahead and start with the thesis. So this is my thesis. It is a two-parter, meaning that it goes over the aesthetic attitude, what's the gist of it, and also the freedom side of positive aspects of ambiguity, but just a small section of it. Now, to start off, we'll start off with the aesthetic attitude, and it is when an individual attempts to look at humanity and history from an outside perspective of the world without any preferences. Now, which means in short that humanity and history, uh, from outside of what is perceived. So you're not in the moment basically. And how would it be possible in the first place? You're looking at something that is the past from a present perspective, and there's really no way you can join it. So the only thing you can do is just look at it from that perspective. So, yeah, that has to do with the aesthetic attitude. And when it comes to freedom, there's a direct involvement with humanity and history, which means that you're either making history or you're making the decisions that would make history in the future. And at least that's what I got from it. And these two quotes you could see right here. I'll leave some time for those who want to read them. They're just parts of the beginning for each sections, both sections 1 and 2, explaining the aesthetic attitude and freedom. So I'll give a little bit of time for those who want to read it. Okay, now it is time for the summarization of both the aesthetic attitude and the freedom. So, for the summary, section 1 has a big chunk of this, so I'll break it down. So in the beginning, they explain about the aesthetic and how, well, they start off with the word free. So that it would not be possible to will someone free. It is possible, however, to observe from a distance rather than take part or be part of interest in the world. That is where the aesthetic attitude comes to play. A good comparison that Beauvoir uses to explain this is the concept of the lover of historical works, which I just explained. So, yes, so it's a passion and admiration, but it's from that distance, and the acknowledgement that yes, this existed, and yes, I'm in the present, and I can't really change what happened with the present. And I can't be directly involved, but I can admire. So, section 1 continuing would be sometimes there are cases where the aesthetic justification can be so striking that can go against the original purpose of writing a piece. So, a good example of this, and this was my favorite, was the meat packing actually, excuse me, the sweatshops analogy, which explains that, if an author happened to write something that, that was, controversial about the sweatshops, but instead of like making it being harsh with the truth, it would be fabrication and lies, then it would really sell it off as that and not really, in the way that it was intended. So the aesthetic can be beautiful in that way where yes, these things happened, but the things that I'm going to mention to you is more, deceptive, if anything, if that makes sense. When it comes to freedom, in order to will freedom, it requires movement, unlike the aesthetic attitude, which requires the wishing of movement. So yes, like I said, freedom requires movement. The wishing of requiring movement is the aesthetic. So that's really all I got from section 2. Now, to answer the questions for the Q&As, I answered some fellow students' questions. On page 82, it says there is no need to awaken the sleeper. For that, it would awaken him to unhappiness. I'm not sure if I'm processing right, so it's a little confusing. So don't worry, it was a bit confusing for me too. But if you think about it in the context of what we're learning, it definitely makes sense. Sometimes those who choose to sleep are more likely exhausted and need the rest. So it is their decision to do so. So this is a sense of freedom. There's a direct involvement. And, you know, I didn't feel like it would directly involve with the aesthetic because, like I said, it takes a back seat. So I apply this to freedom because it's a freedom of choice and there's an action, Decision was made, the action's taking place. And, that's just how it works. So, the good question, Tyler. This means that through this world, each individual can give his freedom a concrete content. Does this mean that this is how man gives himself the world meaning? And to give himself and the world meaning? So that's a good question, Storm. So I take it as individuals that have the power to manifest their freedom. However they please, regardless of what the world entails. So again, applying to freedom, the the decisions that one makes is very important, and it could even change the world as we know it, and for the good or the bad. And it's all about perception as well. That's a different story. So yeah, that about sums up everything. I really enjoyed working on this for the presentation, and yeah. So hope you have a good one. See ya.